everyone. How's everyone doing? Hey, Nick. Hey, thank you guys for being here. I'm just waiting for Becchi, getting some things lined up. Drop where you're watching and tuning in from. And let us know how your day's been. Let her in. Hello, Miss Kate. Oh, no, really? It's gonna be that person tonight. We so appreciate you all being with us. Somebody let me know how sound is. The last live we did, wish I would have known that it turned out it was recording and had downgraded the quality so badly. Oh, because that was such a great time. But, you know, those who choose to watch low quality filming, you know, we've gotten so used to this high quality. Thanks, Nick. We've gotten so used to high quality things, we'll sometimes tune out. But you know what? It's all right. Those who were supposed to get the message did. Okay, so Becchi, it's saying you're unable to join. Let me see if I can invite you. See if that works. Like, my screen is all discombobulated, but I can't see her. All right, we're gonna try this one more time, see what we get. If I can't see her, we're just gonna roll with it. All right, so I don't get to see your beautiful face. Everyone else does, and that's okay. Like we are gonna make it work.
I get to see yours. It feels unfair, but you look amazing.
You can see me, but I can't see you. So this will be fun when I get to watch it back.
Absolutely. Hello to everyone joining us. Thank you for being here. And how are you doing tonight?
I'm
Erica.
Well, I'm well. So the bigger question is, how are you doing? Because we got to just really pour some love out for Miss Becchi, because she's had a rough 24 hours and was like, oh, I'm still going to be here tonight. So
yeah. Thank you so much. I had to. I could not leave you hanging. I love this space, and I had to rally. So thank you for your grace.
Well, I appreciate you, and as I know all of our peeps do too. If you're new here, these are the times. Welcome. I'm Erica Parrótt. That is Miss Becchi Lee. She has a really cool, amazing space. What is it coined? Dealing with your healing?
Yeah, dealing with your healing.
And she offers some amazing somatic therapies, mainly in tapping. And tonight we thought, what better way to expand on the conversations we've been having, but also allow us to just slow down for a moment about the thing we're always talking about slowing down, the nervous system. Mm-hmm. And visualization and healing the nervous system go hand in hand. I don't know about you, Becchi, but would you consider yourself a good visualizer? Like, do you have a good imagination, visualization?
I do now. I didn't used to. I didn't understand the power of how it worked, you know? I think that I didn't realize that there was a difference between having a vision and visualizing something. Like, having a vision for something and just like an idea of it is a little different than taking yourself into the energetic space of visualization. So I feel like I have a better grasp of it now. What about you?
Yeah, it's one of those things where overthinking is a great thing when you know how to use it correctly. With visualization, put it to work. So yeah, like much better understanding. Also killed off a whole bunch of like overthinking, because there's just so many things that while you can't control what comes up in the brain, you can't control how long you entertain it. So by diving into visualization even more, it just kept so many other things from happening, if that makes sense. Because it's like you're just vibing somewhere completely else, so you don't really have time to even entertain that. But it's funny because like the times I wanted to say I sucked at visualizing were the times I wasn't treating myself the best. Like I was running on go mode, doing 24/7, and I was like, oh, but I suck at it. But then I sit back and I think, and I'm like, I read all the time, and I'm building pictures when I'm reading. I'm building a scene when you're telling me a story, right? So naturally, I'm a visualizer. I'm good at it. But it was funny because there for a while I felt like I wasn't. But it's like you said, realizing the difference between vision and visualizing, which is the momentum behind that vision.
And the other thing that's interesting to me is when I even starting like a practice like meditation, I was thinking to myself, if you try to meditate and picture yourself like on a beach and relaxing in the waves, and I couldn't do it. I wasn't seeing those images in my head. And I was thinking about this because my daughter, she's like, oh, I see it vividly. I can see the color when I close my eyes. I can see everything. And I thought, I don't see any of it. And I finally had to come to the kind of like aha moment for myself that sometimes it's not seeing the actual picture when you close your eyes, but it's the knowingness of the thing. It's just like that the thing is there. And even if you can't put the color or the texture to it, sometimes some of us just have a gift for the knowingness versus the actual visualization aspect.
You're 100% correct. Some people just have that natural photographic ability and link between energy like that. They're just very susceptible in that way. But, we do visualization all the time. I mean, overthinking is visualizing. You're putting together a story, So we even use it at work when we're working. Sports, if you played any type of sports, visualization is a tool that's highly used in that. But visualization at the end of the day is just creating neural pathways, similar to those created during real life experiences. So literally just having the thought, even if you can't fill in all the context, you're still visualizing. Because that thought is the beginning seeds of it. I mean, that's how you fill in the blanks, right? Right. So we often get caught up in putting all the details in that we kid ourselves out of visualizing. And the end goal of visualization is to raise your frequency to where you are operating in your highest vibing self to reach where you are visualizing you want to be, the things that you're calling in, the business that you're building, or the home plan that you've got laid out to create a home. Whatever it is that you're calling in, you're just wanting to get that frequency, that feeling, the energy. That is what we're after. Because when you leave visualization, you should be able to harness all of that feeling and take it with you into your day. That way you continue to reside on that level, to continue on that trajectory, to not miss that thing, but just meet it right where you're supposed to, when you're supposed to.
I love that you said what you just said about the energy, because like you said, with even overthinking, we're always aligning with the energy of the thing that we're overthinking about, or the thing that we're visualizing. So if we, what we don't realize is because our minds are always so forward thought driven, and that's where a lot of our overthinking happens, that we're aligning with the energies of the anxiety or the fear or the worry or uncertainties all the time. And it's just making that shift in our mindset to say, well, instead of aligning with those energies, I'm going to align with these instead. And I think that it's interesting too, that something that was not even clear to me until, sometime in the last year, was just the idea that if you visualize, like really deeply visualize, your brain believes that that thing is true. And coming to that, like that point of awareness was like, holy cow, that's that's how powerful our thoughts are, that we can actually change the whole trajectory of our future or the energy of a situation because we decide that this is the thing we're going to visualize ourselves doing. And like you said, whatever that thing is for you, that you are trying to call in towards you or gravitate closer to, your brain will actually believe that thing happened, because our brain doesn't know anything except for the things we've experienced. So if we get into deep visualization, your brain thinks that it actually has happened, and then starts to believe you have the potential to actually have that thing happen. So,
and I'm glad you brought that up, because people don't, this is a good point right here, because when there's a lot of people that are meeting people that have created stories, but their story is not true in any sense. But every time you try to have a conversation about it, they keep coming with their truth. Mm-hmm. Well, here's where you got to understand, it is true to them. Sure. They've had the feelings from head to toe about it because they have thought about it. They created the story. They overthought it. It was a scenario. So we have to allow space and remember, what you feed is what you create and what you base your reality off of. And if you tell yourself something enough, it's going to become true. Yeah. So which stories are you going to keep feeding yourself? Stories that you're playing all the characters and you kind of maybe know what's going to happen, or stories that allow you to expand and actually, not just be in your present, but do the actionable things here so there is a future, because there is no future without now.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And I know that we're talking about different topics that we use visualization for, but one of them, when we're talking about wellness, I just want to say, and I think this has been touched on a bit in our previous lives too, but being in the extremely unhealthy space I was in, there was a time before I even realized the power of the visualization, before I even understood what I was doing, that I was starting to visualize a different me, a healthier me, a person that didn't have the diseases in my body, and a person that was feeling energetic and feeling like a quote unquote normal person again after so many years of not. And me not knowing what I was doing, but deciding that I was going to align with the energy of those things and start to make changes and choices that aligned with that energy, literally changed my life. And I didn't know that at the time, but that's incredible. What you're saying about the neural pathways, right? We know that to create them, we need the repetition. And so, visualization is not just a one-time thing. It's not just today it's my birthday, I'm going to think about where I want to be a year from now and have this great reflective time. Yeah. It's a everyday thing. Where are you going? What do you feel when you get there? What is the experience? What are you seeing there? And who's with you? And getting into those layers is really where all that power is.
It is. And like you said, it's a daily practice. Like, I'll have people ask me, well, how often should I do it? Well, how often do you breathe? Because every moment you're visualizing. So the more that you do it, the less you stop doing the other things, because you're creating new habits. We like to think that, we're in control, but our subconscious is what actually is driving this whole thing. Mm-hmm. Our conscious state is 5 or 10%. Everything else is the subconscious. So a lot of times when people walk into this and find themselves tripped up, they often walk into it with lack of clarity in their goals. Mm-hmm. Like Becchi said, you gotta have an end goal, and you gotta have clarity. A lot of people, like I said, will get hung up in the details, but the more consistent you visualize, the better you get at creating the details. The irony. Yeah. But the other thing is, people who say, I have a hard time focusing. Mm. When you consistently start practicing visualization, your focus and your focus naturally becomes, it falls into alignment and balance for where you're supposed to reside. Emotion is huge, because if you're not feeling what whatever you're feeling is what you're harnessing and you're regenerating in this visualization state. So if you're harnessing fear or focusing on the negative, that's the energy you're going to walk around with. That's the energy you are literally creating from. So even though you might have showed up and you was at work 5 minutes early, can we really call you at 100%? Because then here, what's going on in here? You got this whole background thing playing that you fed into. So it's good not to bring the negative in. You are focusing on where you're going, so you don't know what the possibilities or what you might come up against.
Yeah.
anything you allow to fall in there that hasn't actually happened may or may not happen, but it may or may not alter how you are walking through your day. Go ahead, Becchi.
I was just going to say, I think what you're talking about, what I'm hearing you say is like the consistency of the thoughts that you're having, because what we don't realize a lot of times is once we're doing the visualization, as soon as we're maybe not even finished with the visualization process, there's a thought that seeps in, right? Or it's a couple of minutes later, it's a couple of hours later, it's the next day where all of a sudden we were visualizing this thing and then we go, oh, but I can't, or, oh, but how would I actually do that? And that process stops. And so going into it, you have to be consistent about not just the practice of it, but how intentionally you're aligning with that positive aspect and not letting those thoughts of the doubt and the fear to set in and kind of derail that progress that you're making when you stay in consistent practice with it.
Exactly. Like they say, repetition is the mother of all skill. It doesn't matter if you're learning to ride a bike, learning to build, learning to unbind, and just sit with it. Repetition is how you get better at anything. And believing in your abilities is the key. Because if you don't believe in yourself and your ability to show up and create this thing, because that's another key a lot of people miss. You know, there's a two-way contract when we pray, manifest, visualize, whatever it is you call it. And that contract is, I'm going to show up and do what I need to do, actionable step to lay the foundation for this thing I'm calling in to even be able to survive, let alone thrive. And that contract is, you're going to meet me with the things of equal portion that I need. And a lot of people, I've been here before too, forget about their end of the contract, especially when things get good. And it's like, oh, I don't have to do this now. I don't have to do that now. And those actions will always be required of you, because to whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
So you have to understand and be ready and believe and know that, all right, I'm here for this. I got this. Before you start calling it in, because that's also how we call in what a lot of times we want to call our hell, when we just actually wasn't fully prepared. We naively was, and then it hit and he's like, oh shit. Yeah. So, you know, you have to believe and understand what it's going to take. And that's where we can borderline get in our overthink mode. But knowing what it's going to take isn't about overthinking, and it's not about psyching yourself out. It's about allowing for honest clarity of A, B, C, D could happen, even E, G, F, K, Z. But this is what I know about me.
Yeah.
So how am I still going to show up despite what may come? That's the key. How am I still going to do what I need to do despite what may come?
Okay. Got a few things flying through my head. I'm trying to catch them all.
Yes.
You were hitting so many good ones.
See your face.
I know. I'm sorry. You're hitting so many
your fault. It's not your fault. It's IG's fault.
I was just thinking about how, you know, I think that one of those things, admittedly for me, was a problem where I would always, I guess visualization to me is a step past positivity, right? So for me, it used to feel like just thinking about or having a vision for a better life. You know, we can get really like broad and generalized and vague. And so like you said, there's a difference with that. And like you said, that contract where you are showing up with the actionable steps is huge. We have to take accountability for that, because a lot of times then we go, oh, well, it didn't work out. See, we tried. We said what we wanted. We didn't get there. It didn't happen fast enough or the way that we wanted. And it's like, but were you taking accountability for how you showed up on your end in the consistency of that? And I also, it was a little bit back, but you also made a comment about the importance of connecting with the feeling of the thing. And I heard someone say once, and it kind of was like this very, very clear definition for me. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. It was like, you know, if you always visualize having this like crazy sports car, like you've wanted this all your life, it's beautiful, you love it, you don't want the sports car. You want the feeling that comes with riding in the sports car.
Exactly.
So you can't just be like, oh, one day I want to have that sports car. It's like what you're aligning with the energy of the feeling of the thing you're going to feel when the air is like flying through the car because the top is down, and, you know, playing your music loud and feeling free and whatever that feels like. That's what we're trying to align with. It's not just seeing the thing that we want to have, you know?
Yep. No, exactly. That's exactly it. It's just so funny how much we'll psych ourselves out of things all because of doubt, or and you know, there's a fine line between toxic positivity and walking in positivity, because if you're not accepting the fact that, yeah, things are going to pop into your head, but at what point are you just going to be like, that has nothing to do with me? That has nothing to do with what I'm, right? And keep it moving. So, you know, you gotta find that fine line. Like, you gotta be willing to be aware of yourself, call yourself out, like we've talked about here before. You know, just when it happens, you recognize it and you pivot it. At that point, no harm, no foul. You're human. You did what needs to be done in that moment. It's when you allow it to sit there. And now it's five minutes later and it's still there. And it's a whole story that don't nobody else know is even going on but you. And that is when we feel anxious. That is when all of the hours we've already spent doing the thing and visualizing, we're like, it's just not gonna happen. So that's why it's not good to walk around in toxic positivity. You got to be aware. And toxic, if you happy all the time, you're not aware. There's a difference. Like, you can be inwardly happy at your core and you still understand, right now I feel sad. I feel sad. I'm going to figure out what that is, because nothing really immediately happened, but I'm also not going to fully entertain it and like dive into it like we BFFs, because I don't even know what, you know? So that's what it means. Are you going to be willing to elevate your own line of thinking and questioning? Not just when you're sitting there like trying to fill in the context. Are you willing to do that when you're walking through your day? Because visualization is happening at every level all day long. All the time.
Yeah. And I would say that I think many people would admit, no matter where they are in their journey, that without a whole bunch of dedication to the process, more often than not, those negative thoughts are the ones that are seeping in. They're the ones that we're most comfortable with. Like, they're the ones that we carried with us through our childhood. We had no one to talk to about them, and the things that we, like you said, when we're talking about self-doubt and all of those things that are so ingrained in us, that we have to take the ownership and accountability at every stage, every moment. I know we've talked about this before too. It's like, you can't even let the thought finish. If you've got the thought, if it pops in and it's negative and it's self-doubt and it's fear, you can't even let that thought finish. You have to get to a point where you decide, like, going forward, every time the thought comes. And for a lot of us, it's a repetitive thought, right? A lot of us are having the same negative thought we've carried with us forever. And we have to decide, like, today's the day I stop thinking that thought. And as soon as I do, I'm going to stop it in its tracks and I'm going to replace it with something else. And that, of course, brings us back to the neural pathways again, and creating the new ways of thinking, the ways that we really honestly can just reframe the way that we even approach the thoughts that we have. And I love what you said too about just like the nervous system, the soothing and regulation of the nervous system, because a lot of the practices like visualization or meditation and things that we talk about in these spaces is so transformative. And there is that fear, like you said, of not being able to, for me, admittedly, starting this practice was, I'm not going to be able to be still enough. I won't get my brain quiet enough or still enough. And it's really just taking the practice, because we've had so much practice not doing that we have to have practice doing that.
But you know what's funny? You can't turn the brain off. That's what cracks me up when people are like, but my brain won't stop. And I'm like, well, I hope it don't, because you'll be dead. Yeah. Like, hello, don't I ever heard the medical talk, brain dead? Your brain will never stop. Again, meditation, visualization is about what you gonna do despite what's going on.
Yeah. And that's hard. That takes a lot of self-discipline.
Yeah. My meditation this morning, I have been meditating since I was a child. But then I've fallen in and out of it. But like, I do it. It's part of my life. We not having a discussion minimum twice a day. I've been doing that regularly for almost the last 8 years. But I still have time. This morning, perfect example. I wake up, use the bathroom. I was like, and I'm gonna meditate. And I get down, I'm doing breath work. And when I tell you the dumbest shit that didn't matter about shit. And I was like, this is not what we're doing this morning. You know, I mean, I'm moving them out. But it was just like, really? Like, come on, man. I didn't even read before bed on purpose, because I know this is such an active time. Like, let me just have my meditation.
Oh my God.
So, don't go into it with, how do I make these thoughts stop? Let the thought come up. Does it have to do with what you are dealing with in that meditation moment? If it doesn't, move it on. Keep it moving. If something else comes up, my favorite is the grocery list, because the grocery list always comes up for women when they're bored in sex and when they're just getting started in meditation. You can create all kinds of lists when you try to meditate and get on point, and you be like, oh, wait, I got to do that. That list comes up. Okay, cool. Mentally put it on there and let it keep moving. And get to where you are going. Because once you get there, trust me, the brain, the body, the heart, the soul. But if you're worried about all the things that pop up as you're getting to that state, no, you're not ever going to get there. Think of it like this. If you're walking down the street and you have an armful of gold, are you going to drop it to pick up one piece of gold?
Right.
Okay, that's your thoughts. You know where you're trying to go. So why are you going to drop this just because something else popped up?
I love that. Well, holy cow, that's great. I love that little image that you just gave us, because that's super important. And I think that also is just a really great reminder to just, you don't have to interact with every thought. And that can serve us really well in our entire life, not just in visualization. You don't have to interact with every thought, every energy, just it can come, and then you can let it go. And you can choose to get right back and realign with the things you need to be thinking about and bringing into your mind space. And like you said, let the rest just kind of float away. They'll come back again. We're never going to lose them. They'll come back.
You're 100% correct, Becchi. And like you said, just let them float away. Because at that point, you are, if you're trying to hold on to all of that, you are mentally and inwardly being a hoarder. And everything can't stay with you your whole life.
Yeah. Right. Now we got to make space for the things we need to make space for. And I love that, because when you're a hoarder, there's no more space. No. You can't make space. You won't magically have more
stuff places. And, so, you got to clean it out. But, go ahead, Becchi. Do you have any last tips that people could start using now as they move into visualization?
Well, my one thing I will just say is I always try to come with the gentle approach and reminder of to just give yourself some grace and patience with the process. Don't give up, don't start it and then feel like, oh, it didn't work, and just stick with it. Give yourself time and space to really get into that. And I would just say to choose one thing that is going to, there's a lot of tips out there for different ways you can visualize from, there's so many, there's so many ways. If you're struggling with symptoms, you can use, a healing light color that you're visualizing, like coming into your body and kind of like, taking the sickness and illness away or reducing inflammation in your body. And you can do visualization for doors opening, like literal doors opening in your future. And I mean, there's just about everything imaginable. So I would just say to give yourself some time to even research this a little more, but then also give yourself a lot of grace in the practice and be patient with yourself in the process.
I like that. Patience is key. And remembering, don't bite off more than you can chew. If you don't sit still well and you haven't already been trying to practice that, telling yourself that you're going to do a 15-minute meditation is setting yourself up for failure, because I'm here to tell you you're not. I love you, but you're not. About minutes. Right before you get to a minute, you're going to open your eyes and be like, how long has it been?
Yeah.
Then you're going to start thinking about how long 15 minutes is. So I want you to start where you are. Even if it's a minute, 2 minutes, set a timer for 5 minutes if you think that's where you can start. But start somewhere. And remember that there's multiple, like you said, multiple types of meditative states to visualize. There's ones for outcome visualization. And then they have what we call process visualization. I like process visualization, especially for anxiety and overthinkers, because it allows you to visualize the steps you need to take to reach your goal. It allows you to visualize a conversation without putting yourself in every character. It allows you to bring multiple thought processes in. So as you begin to expand on your visualization journey, just know you'll use them both together, that they go hand in hand. But there will be times you might need one. Like she said, you might be dealing with something medical. So you're dealing with more of an outcome visualization. But whatever it is that you're walking into, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah.
It was built by showing up every day and doing actionable steps to get to the end goal.
I love that. I want to wrap this up by just saying that I realized, because I've been coming to you for coaching and you have been doing, oh my gosh, amazing work with me. It's crazy. I realize now that I wasn't really fully aware that you're moving me through process visualization. I didn't even realize that, because I do a lot of outcome visualization, but I see now in the most sneaky way. I am not even aware you're doing it to me, but you are doing that. And yeah. And you also,
and look at all that has unfolded in 4 weeks.
I'm telling
Unless all the things
are,
happened before this 4th week. But yeah.
You're
things that have fallen into place.
Pulling all the things out of me. Everyone's been asking me lately, how are those coaching sessions going? I'm like, oh, buckle up. You are not even going to believe the things I've been going through and working through and pulling out. And now I see that some of the things you're doing behind the scenes, that is moving me into space of process visualization. And I also want to make note that you mentioned that don't set yourself up for failure. And you are huge on that. You're huge on that in these coaching sessions too, where you're like, you are big on setting everybody up for success. What are the ways that you can be set up for success to meet these goals that you have? And so I want to thank you for that again, but also just wanted to make sure that I wanted to be in agreement with you on that is the biggest part, is set yourself up for success so that you can get where you're going.
Yeah. So listen, we always leave these lives up But we invite you, if you have questions, drop them. Feel free to drop them now. We'll try to get to them. If you've got some, we'll give it a minute, see if any pop up. But no, we always leave these lives up. So you can come back to it later, drop a question, or if you want to connect further with us, you can hit us up in my DM. You can hit Becchi Lee up in hers. She'll be tagged in this when it goes onto the feed, so you can easily access her profile if you haven't already hit that follow button. But before we roll out, no pun intended. It's been a day here, Becchi. Before we head out, I just want to say thank you all for just the continued love that shows up, be it in a story comment, I find it in the comment section, you guys drop it in DM. You all truly are amazing gems, each and every one of you. And I'm grateful to have come across you and to be able to spend time with you, especially you, Becchi.
You as well. You already know I love you, and this is such a special space that we are creating here. And yeah, so grateful for you. We see a lot of the same faces in here too, so you guys are really you're down with us, and yeah, we appreciate that.
You guys are the real MVPs.
Yes.
They say. All right. So just remember, set clear goals, engage the senses, consistency. Harness that emotion, believe it, and you shall achieve it. That's legit, because we already know this to be true.
Absolutely.
We know this. All right. We love you guys, and we will see you all on September 27th, right here, same time, for a little bit of mind shifting.
Can't wait.